And we're starting with education. Lockdown, children have been out of the classroom for months now, and in some parts of England, they've only spent 60 days in school in almost a year. Now, while some children have access to laptops, good Wi-Fi connection and structured homeschooling schedule, that's certainly not the case for every child. And a professor is now urging the government to consider allowing children who've been hit hardest to repeat the school year. Frankie, you've got two school-age children, and it's been very difficult for parents homeschooling. What do you think of that idea of that they just all repeat the year?
I think it's a really hard one, isn't it? Because, like you said, everyone's in a different situation. But for me personally, our youngest son, Carter, he repeated reception this year. So for me, for him to then go back and do reception for a whole nother year just wouldn't make sense. And I feel like then where does that end? There's going to be a knock-on effect of that further down the line. And for me personally, I worry less about their education and more about their mental health, because I know my eldest son is really missing all his friends. You know, he finds it really hard to understand why he can't see them. And then my youngest, who's only 5, turned around to me last night and said, "Mummy, I'm really scared." And I was like, "Why?" He's normally quite chilled. And he said, "I'm scared of germs. I'm scared of if my friends get too close to my face and they don't listen to the teacher and they don't stay far away enough."
And how old is he?
And he's 5. And I just thought, should he really be worrying about stuff like that at the minute? You know, I'm not particularly funny about things like that at home. And yeah, I just think,
I guess if you go to school and all that's going on around you, he's going to pick that up, isn't he?
Exactly. And I just think if someone that young is already picking that up, you know, how are older kids being affected by that? And is it going to be a long-lasting effect in the long run?
I mean, Denise, the Ofcom is saying that about 9% of children in the UK don't have access to a laptop, a desktop or a tablet at home, you know, and so those are the children who will be most vulnerable and who are missing out on learning. And they're saying, actually, everybody talks about exam time, you know, GCSEs and A-levels, but actually it's primary school education, you know, the building blocks of education, reading and writing, for the younger children who are really being affected more badly.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you sort of said in your intro to this, implying that, you know, there is this thing about everybody's in it together, and we know that that's exactly not the case. Everybody isn't in it together. And as someone who, my kids are way beyond school age, I don't really feel that qualified to comment educationally on what should happen. I very much agree with Frankie as regards, to me, the most important thing is the mental health of children. And that is something that is being hugely ignored in many quarters at the moment. From an educational point of view, a friend of mine put on Facebook the other day something that really helped a lot of people. This is my friend Karen, who her daughter Katie was 4 when she got leukemia. Karen also had 2 other boys who had Hunter syndrome. And so Katie, and she said, my Katie was in and out of hospital between the ages of 4 and 14. She said, okay, she didn't get 3 A stars at A-level, but she got her GCSE, she got a couple of A-levels. She's a really balanced together girl, and she missed so much schooling. But somehow she caught up. And I think that parents and carers have got so much pressure on them at the moment, especially those dealing with their own mental health issues or dealing with work from home. But I think that it's just an extra pressure. But I think that as long as the children are happy, there are other things that can be learned during this time other than just the curriculum.
It's hard to think of the knock-on effect, Jane, isn't it? It's like if they repeat the year, where does that end?
Yeah, I mean, what happens, so if the current reception do reception again, what happens to the children that are supposed to be starting reception? What happens to them? And then when you go from primary to secondary, what happens to the kids that were supposed to go to secondary? And then you're going to have a year with the universities with hardly anyone in them, because when all of the kids that have repeated the year again, they're not going to be, you know, applying for universities. So no, I don't think that's going to work. And I just think also that, you know, kids have already kind of had a year of their lives taken away as such, you know, through no fault of their own or anybody else's. So to take another year from them is not really the way forward. I think what they need to do, and I think, you know, Denise is right when she says that there is a disparity in how people have had online schooling in this past year, is that you have to just put more teachers in at the point of the year that they're in and just say, right, if there's any kids struggling, we just do separate
extra lessons,
extra work
and
with them,
extra help. We asked you, actually, we did a poll today, should all school children retake the year? 53% of you yes and 47 no. So quite close there. And lots of comments, which I don't have time to read out now, but I might try and read a few of those later. Thank you very much for getting in touch, because we do like to hear from you at home.